Thank you. And I just wanted to, again, thank Jim Delaney for everything he's done for the Big Ten. Haven't been around here to see everything he's done, but obviously what he's done and the opportunities he's provided for everybody involved with the conference is tremendous, and really looking forward to work with Kevin Warren moving forward and tackling some of the changes in college football and the landscape as we move into the next couple decades. Excited to be here. Excited to be here with three great young men: Jordan Fuller, KJ Hill, and Jonathan Cooper. Jordan is a first-team academic All-American. He was a captain last year, leading tackler on our team. KJ Hill is someone who came back for his fifth year after sitting with he and his parents. We lost three senior captain wide receivers last year, and him deciding to come back was a huge deal for us. He's 48 catches short of breaking the school record for most career catches at Ohio State. And then Jonathan Cooper, defensive end for us, senior. He's played a lot of football for us. He is the epitome of what it means to be a Buckeye. He's a tremendous young man. I think you'll enjoy speaking with all three of these guys. This summer's been interesting. June has changed a lot. We now have official visits. So June is a bear for college football coaches. And having official visit weekends in June, it was a lot of work. Got into July and really had the staff get away from football a little bit, recharge as we head into August, because this team's got a lot to prove. The coaching staff is a new coaching staff. We got a lot to prove. The offense, we lose 7 guys, really 8 with Mike Weber leaving as well. It's going to be a new quarterback under center. And then also on defense, there's a group of guys over there who are salty, who have a lot to prove. So August is going to be a big month for us, and looking forward to get going in a couple weeks. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
Coach, we'll start right in front of you on the left.
Hi, Ryan. Dave Biddle from 24/7 Sports. Who has the inside track to be your middle linebacker, starting middle linebacker, and what are some of the other most important position battles you face going into training camp on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of depth at linebacker, and with the new scheme, we're actually having the ability to use different personnel groupings. We'll put 5 DBs in a game, we'll put 3 linebackers in a game, and kind of mix that up. Tough Borland, played a lot for us last year, and he's being pushed. He's being pushed by Taraja Mitchell. You're going to see Baron Browning, Malik Harrison, Pete Warner. You're going to see a lot of these guys playing next year. Al Washington's got his hands full. I talk to him all the time about you got to figure out who's going to play. And it's a good thing. There's a lot of healthy competition right there. And, we want that room to look like the defensive line room has looked in the past. Whereas, we've got a lot of guys in that room and Larry Johnson's built that room up to where, you look at the guys who have come before and then the young guys who are there, there's a mentorship going in there in that room. And we want to build that in the linebacker room, and Al Washington's working on that. On offense, yeah. So, the tight end group right now is probably the most experienced group. And Luke Farrell came back and had a really good offseason. Rashad Berry's played for us. And then Jeremy Ruckert's looking to make a push right now. So there's going to be a good battle right there with different skill sets. The thing up front is going to be interesting because we have some guys who have some experience. Although we've lost 4 guys who are starters, Thayer Mumford's the incumbent at left tackle. But other than that, Wyatt played at right guard. Josh has played some at center. But then you also have, Jonah Jackson coming in from Rutgers, Brandon Bowen, and then Josh Allaby. And then the other guy is Nick Petit-Ferrer. All of those guys could play. For the most part, they had good springs. They've had a good off season. But the battle is really going to happen in August.
We'll go over here on the right.
Yeah, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch. Ryan, in terms of this transition you've gone through, what have been the challenges? You've kind of gone from, I'm assuming, less coaching to more of this type of thing. How has it looked in terms of how you recruit, your role changing, and sort of being the CEO of the program? Yeah,
it started with, in the summer with the staff and making some hard decisions right there. And then, go about motivating the staff and hiring guys that you trust to do their job. And then, we have so many other staff in place, whether it's, quality controls or GAs, recruiting staff. And, creating a vision there in terms of recruiting is our number one priority in the building is recruiting. And so as the head coach, as the position coach, anybody else in the building, that's the first thing we focus on every day. And then from there, it's what we call power of the unit, which is motivating their units. And then at the end, it's enhancing the scheme. And so constantly talking to the guys about that. And as football coaches, a lot of times we want to hit on scheme, we want to talk about plays, but it's more about recruiting and about working with our guys to create that brotherhood amongst each other. And having that approach now where it's more of a macro approach as opposed to just looking at the X's and O's and the football and everything like that. Still very much involved on offense, working with Kevin Wilson and Mike Yursich on that side of the ball. And that's the exciting thing about college football is every year, that offense is going to adapt based on your personnel. And losing as many guys we lost on offense, it's going to look different this year. And that's an exciting journey as we move into August.
We'll go all the way on the left in the third row.
Hey, Ryan, Austin Ward, Lettermen Row. You talked, I think, on the day you got hired or got the job that over time you would put your personality on the program. You'd obviously make some tweaks, but you're also trying to maintain a really successful program as it is. Have there been things already in the first 6 or 7 months that you've consciously done differently, tried to change, or anything at this point that's notable?
I think the easy thing to do is to ask, how are you different than Urban Meyer? And that's not something I really like to answer because, first off, you don't replace a legend. You don't replace one of the best football coaches in the history of the game. And what you can do is just be yourself. And I think that's what I'm doing and focusing on what we call tough love. Tough is being tough on the field. And with our strength and conditioning program being the backbone of our program is that they have to be tough. Our guys got to be, it's a tough game. We got to make tough decisions. Leadership is tough, challenging your teammate. But then also love for your brother and creating those bonds with your coach, creating those bonds with your teammates, because that's the ultimate motivator in my opinion. And so those are the things that we've been preaching to our team, and I think there's a lot of energy and positivity around the program.
We'll bounce to the right over here.
That's right. Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. For the first time in a long time, Ohio State's not the clear favorite to win the Big Ten, according to some things that have been out there. What's your take on that? How good do you feel about your team a couple weeks before training camp starts?
I feel great about the team. I love our team. I love our players. I love being around the guys. There's teams you get around where, it's labor to go to work. That's not the case here. These are great kids, and they're working really, really hard. But like I said, we have a lot to prove. This is a new staff. This is a new team. We haven't done anything, and we need to do that. So first off, in July, our guys have been working really, really hard. They got a break right around the 4th of July, but other than that, they've been working. And our strength and conditioning staff with Coach Mick and everybody, they've been working their tails off to get themselves in shape and learn a lot of hard lessons right there in the weight room and working out. But it's going to come down to proving it on the field. That's what matters in the end. And we got to do it as a staff. We got to do it offense, defense, and special teams.
Right in front of you, Coach.
Hey, Coach. Steve Hellwagon, Bucknuts 24/7. Curious about Justin Fields. It was kind of an uneven performance publicly in the spring game. We didn't get to see him run, obviously. You guys obviously can see so much more during practice and use him in different ways. Curious about his development this summer and bringing in Gunnar Hope, just what that dynamic should look like going into the preseason.
Yeah. The quarterback room is there's not a guy in that room that was on the roster last year. There's not a guy in that room that was on the roster in December, other than Chris Chuganoff. And so it's an interesting situation. Whoever is playing in that first game will be the first time. And, Justin and Gunnar are going to compete like heck to go win the job. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who can play the game. And our schedule's funny this year. We have 6 games, a bye week, 2 games, a bye week, and then we play 4 games. And so in those first 6 games, the quarterback's going to be green. He's not going to have a lot of experience. And so the guys around him, our defense, the running game, the guys, the receivers on the end, they got to pick up the slack there. And so that as we go and grow throughout the season, we kind of get into that middle season and hit our stride in offense.
Over here on the right in the third row. Right over here, Coach.
Hey, Ryan, Teddy Greenstein from the Chicago Tribune. Obviously, Urban's still working for the university, and my understanding is he will be working with a lot of the varsity coaches. I assume he's available to you. Do you think you'll talk to him much during the season?
For sure. I'd be crazy if I didn't. First off, what he's meant and Shelly has meant to Nina and I and our family, I could talk about that for hours. And he's been unbelievable in terms of understanding when to be there, when to step away. He taking multiple phone calls from me, just looking for advice on how to handle certain things. And that would have been the case if I was anywhere else because of our relationship. But being at Ohio State and being right across the street, he's an unbelievable resource, and he's been a huge help. And he's going to continue to do that throughout the fall.
Towards the back in the middle, right in front of that light.
Coach Andy Anders, the Lantern. I'm curious, in the past couple of years, the receiver rotation has gone 6 deep. Is that something you see continuing this year, or could it fluctuate based on who you're comfortable with at that position?
We'd love to play as much depth as we can. If you look at last year, I thought when we started out the season, you had Austin and Ben at X, you had KJ and Paris at H, and then we had Johnny and Terry at Z. And they didn't care who caught the ball. And what we were doing is we were playing really, really fast. And by the fourth quarter, teams were kind of breaking down, and our guys were fresh because we were playing depth. And that talks to that room and what Brian Hartline's done in terms of building unselfishness in that room. Because a lot of receivers want the ball. They want their catches. They want their numbers. But these guys didn't care. And we have to keep that mentality going in that room. But when you look at who we have coming back, I think we have a chance for that same thing. Not as much experience, but when you look at Austin and Ben, they've played there before. KJ's got a ton of experience. And then Chris Olave came on at the end of the season. So we want to get to that 6-7 man rotation if we can.
We have time for 2 more. We'll go in the back right corner.
Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Hey, Coach, I know you've been asked a lot about Urban Meyer, but I wanted to ask you about another one of your mentors, Chip Kelly. You played for him, and then you worked for him. How much did he shape your thinking, not only as a coach, but the way that maybe you look at offense and the direction that it's headed going into the future?
Where do I even start? He's like a father, brother, uncle to me. Known him since I've been 6 years old. Spent some time with him again this summer. He's meant everything to me in my career. He got me going. He recruited me to go to the University of New Hampshire. He coached me there, and then I coached with him in the NFL for 2 years. He's shaped it as much as, he and Urban are probably the 2 biggest influences, and Steve Addazio will be the 3rd, and what they've done for me in my career. But he's always thought outside the box. He's been an innovator in the game, and so much of what we do is very, much in line with his philosophies and in some of the concepts that he built. Because, what he did was he combined the spread run game with the pro passing game when we went to the NFL, and that's kind of our philosophy.
Our final question for Coach Day comes in the front row on the right.
Thank you. Roy Akers, Midwest Sports Scene. Now, some of the procrastinators and some of the magazines for the first time had Michigan winning the East. Is that something used as bulletin board material, or does your prior resume and the team's resume speak for itself?
I mean, I think people read it. I think our guys read it. They see it, especially with social media. It's more available than ever. But again, that's not something that we focus on. I've talked to our guys about the expectations at Ohio State couldn't be any higher year in and year out. We know that. But if we focus on all that, we can get ourselves distracted because it really doesn't matter. I know that sounds like coach speak, but it's true. Because in the end, what matters is if we win the game. And the only thing that's going to help us do that is if we get better day in and day out and focus on right now. And again, I know that sounds like cliche, but it's truth, and it's what we got to focus on.
Thank you for your time, Coach.
Thanks.